Good afternoon, this is Reading for Charity again. This time round we have The Stranger by Albert Camus. This one I don't think was as good as The Fall. I think The Fall's one of those books I think I'm going to keep going back to and back to and back to read again and again and again because I think I'll get more out of it every time I read it. I still haven't thought my way through all the things in The Fall, and I will have to go back and read it to do so again. The Stranger is I think, less clever in the questions it asks. So, really, as far as I can tell, with The Stranger, it really only asks the questions that it wants to ask in the last few pages of the book. It's not a long book, it's only 100 and something pages long, 120 or so, 123 pages long. And really, the questions I want to ask happens in the last 5 pages. So when he's finally condemned to death for what happened in the earlier parts of the novel, um, those are the points where the questions that Camus actually wants to ask is asked. Now, the preceding 117 pages or so, which is leading up to that point, I can't see the connection between that and the rest of the book. So, The Stranger is curiously emotionless, and there's never any reason given for it. So, in the same way that perhaps people on the autistic spectrum have been portrayed elsewhere, you could argue that that in the strange by Albert, I can't remember the guy's name now. It's annoying me. I can only remember my man because that's the mother. That's really going to irritate me. Can't remember his name, but it's the he he feels very little emotion all the way through the book, apart from frustration a couple of times, and he speaks to everybody he speaks to. When it comes to emotion, he says what he thinks would make people happy. So he doesn't. So when he's talking to his girlfriend and she says, "Do you love me?" and he's like, "Well, meh, I don't really feel anything for you, but I enjoy." Going to bed with you, and I enjoy spending time with you, and I think you're beautiful, and you make me laugh, but not necessarily love. And that's his response to the people who consider him friends. He he speaks to them and he does what they ask and he comforts them, but he at no point does he ever actually feel friendship to them. It's curious all the way through the book because there's absolutely no emotion expressed whatsoever through the book. Is his name ever actually uttered through the book? I'm going backwards through it and I'm trying to find anyone speaking his name. Maybe his name isn't mentioned. Maybe that's part of the story and I've missed it before. Um, the so the fact that he doesn't show any emotion through the book could be descriptions of someone who is on the autistic spectrum. I don't think that's actually true, but I could see why some people would think that. I actually think that the idea that he hasn't got any emotion or doesn't express any emotion actually ends up being part of the last chunk of the book. The final 5 pages of the book where the actual point exists. What, and it becomes what I took from it was massively nihilistic of what is the point of anything. There is no God, there is no good, there is no bad, there is no anything other than that moment in time and what you did. And I he he expresses anger in the last 5 pages, but is it anger, is it frustration, is it he stands up and he shouts, but again, he actually says, that got me mad. But it is literally only at the end that he shows it off, and it's that kind of weird in between stage at the end of the book where the actual questions are being asked. It's the only time he ever shows the emotion, and it's to the priest, who's trying to get him to essentially believe in God. At the final moment, he's like, "Well, no, I don't, because I don't." And I felt that I read the final 5 pages 2 or 3 times trying to understand what the question was that Camus was asking, that he'd led everything up to, and I still can't actually quite work it out. What exactly is the questions, other than just overriding nihilism? You know, what is the point of anything? People live and people die, and in 100 years, people will be living and people will be dying. So why do anything? Why feel anything? Is that what he's asking? I genuinely can't work it out. Which is why I think it's not as good as The Fall. I think the questions in the Fall are clear and on the surface, but are deep enough that they require more thinking about. This one feels much more like there's a question in there, but I'm not even sure Camus has managed to tease it out to the point where it's obvious in the way he did with The Fall. So yeah, it was interesting, and I mean, I quite enjoyed it from a weird perspective, which was, you know, I read the back of the blurb in the back of the book, so I kind of knew where the story was going. But trying to see how it got there, I mean, and it got there in a really roundabout, strange fashion. There's absolutely no point for any of his behaviour at any point in any of the book, but it kind of happens anyway, which is, you know, leading into the last, you know, what's the point of anything? Because his actions have no point through the book. It's mildly frustrating. So, yes, should you read this book? If you can make more of it than me, if you think you can make more of it than I did, yes, you should definitely go and read this book. I preferred The Fall. I think that's a book I'm going to read over and over again. I'm going to try read the last 5 pages of this one again and try and work out exactly what Camus is trying to say. But I struggled to get the point. But it's a good enough book, and it's so short. You can read it in one sitting and it's fine. So yes, that was The Stranger. Read it. If you read The Fall first, if you read The Fall and you enjoyed that, read The Stranger, and then see if you can take something away from it more than I did. Next up will be Catch 22, one of the bigger novels in the last stretch. But until then, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening, and good afternoon.